credits for you. Everybody get...
What's up guys, Thick Fillet here, and I wanted to show you guys the most explosive Zane build out there right now. Let's get straight into things, we don't procrastinate here. I'm going to break this build down, then go over the pros and cons. So, how does this build work? This build is brought to you by 4 skills: Pocket Full of Grenades, Seeing Red, Doppelbanger, and Salvation. Alright, so Pocket Full of Grenades. This is the skill that makes this whole build possible. With 3 points into this, you'll regenerate 24 nades per second. What that means is about 1 grenade every 4 seconds. That's not bad, right? But that's not what we want. The key here is to equip a class mod that gives you at least 2 more points in this skill. I'll tell you which class mod when we get to the gear. I have one that gives me 3 points in this skill. But from my testing, if you get at least 2 additional points into this skill, 5 points total, you'll be good. 5 points will give you 41% grenade regeneration, which basically means a grenade every 2.5 seconds. I think you all know how Seeing Red works. That's right. Every time you activate your action skill, your kill skills will activate Pocket Full of Grenades and your other kill skills. We're only using 1 action skill in this build, and it is the clone armed with a ton of explosives. That's where Doppelbanger comes in. Now I can't say how great the theme of Doppelbanger fits in this build, but that's not why it's important. You're going to be activating your clone and blowing it up immediately. This will set up your timer to start counting down to activating this skill again, over and over as much as you need it to get your kill skills activated. It's so important to have your kill skills up at all times, and this will keep things moving. The final skill that holds this build together is Salvation. This skill will heal you for 10% of all damage you deal, including grenade damage. Does this sound like the most Demolition Woman build yet? So you'll be throwing out barrages of grenades, shooting guns, blowing up clones, and keeping yourself nice and healthy for all your fights. The rest of the skills don't matter for the most part. I definitely suggest putting points into Premunitus and Cool Hand. Premunitus gives you larger magazines so you can reload less often, and Cool Hand helps you reload faster. The only thing that can distract you from throwing grenades or activating action skills is reloading, so both these skills help you do that less. I also suggest putting a few leftover points into Adrenaline. This skill basically helps your action skill cooldown rates as long as your shields are full. The shield we're using later combos with this very well. However, if you have the Guardian rank topped off unlocked, then you can go ahead and put a couple points into Ready for Action instead. Ready for Action basically just improves your recharge rate and your recharge delay. So that'll help you fill up your shield, and topped off will help your action skill cooldowns. Fractal Frags is another great skill. Your clone will throw a nade every time you activate it. This can definitely be super clutch, like on those times you're running out of nades and you have a action skill activation. You can activate it right in someone's face and then blow up your clone as you're shooting your guns. This allows time for some of your nades to regenerate. It's just a clutch trick to have. Otherwise, you're just going to want to pick all the best skills in your trees. I'll leave each tree up for a few seconds so you can pause the video and see what I think the best skills are. I just wanted to say before we get to the next part, if you like this build, leave a like and consider subbing. If this video gets good responses, I'll definitely be making more Borderlands content, and I'll heart and reply to every single comment on this video, so give me a challenge. Moving on to the gear. The most important thing in this build is the Shockerator class mod. This is the legendary class mod I was talking about earlier. It puts more points into Pocket Full of Grenades. Nothing on this class mod matters except for this skill right here, Pocket Full of Grenades. Mine has 3 points in it, which gives me 50% grenade regeneration per second. That's 1 grenade every 2 seconds. Now, this might not sound infinite like my title suggests, sorry about that, but between reloading guns and activating action skills, you'll never be short of grenades. The second most important piece in this build is the recurring Hex Grenade. This grenade is so powerful, it is the best grenade in the game. It's just a fact. If your enemies have armor, equip your Cryo Grenade. I like to pair it with the Radiation Flacker to melt the shields. That way the Cryo Grenades can start working on their armor and their HP. If your enemies don't have armor, definitely equip that radiation grenade. It does way more overall damage across the battlefield with the radiation auras, and radiation also has a boost in true Vault Hunter mode against shields anyway. Alright, now on to my favorite gun in this build right now, my radiation flacker. This build was made for mobbing, and this radiation flacker does that so well. It melts multiple enemy shields, it pairs very well with the cryo nades when enemies have armor like I was talking about, and in general it's just a great gun for mobbing. It's great to have in your inventory. Next is my ice laser exploder, just another thing that's great against armor. It's just a good gun anyway, it's good against regular health. It has a slight debuff towards shields, so I suggest using the flacker to get rid of shields first. But enough said about that, it also slows down enemies. Finally, the Fire Cutsman and the Fire Lyuda. These are the two absolute best guns in the game right now in my opinion. There could definitely be some arguments for other guns, I think it also depends on your builds. But the Cutsman and the Lyuda are absolute, just devastating guns to use. You have to play with these guns to feel their power. Those of you who've already played with these guns, you already know. Alright, the shield I love playing with is the Band of Sidorak. If you didn't know, your clone gets a copy of your shield too, which makes for some super fun and hilarious times when your enemies will break your clone's shield and they'll go flying into the air. The best thing about this shield, however, is that it regenerates in 3 seconds flat. Another reason the low capacity of the shield doesn't bother me is because often I'll find myself in the middle of a bunch of enemies with no shield and max health anyway. We got tons of health regeneration because of salvation, but we have no shield regeneration. So I picked this shield so that once you get a quick breather, you'll have max shields in seconds, and then you can take advantage of adrenaline or top off. Find yourself a good relic. Best perks are probably grenade damage, splash damage, action skill, cooldown, health regeneration, incendiary resistance. You can take a look at mine here to see what I use, just for reference. It's probably not the best one ever, but it's fairly good. I also want to test elemental projectors. I've seen lots of videos of people using them very well. I just haven't gotten around to finding a good one or testing with it yet. Now I'm going to talk about some of the pros and cons of this build. So, the pros. Mobbing and small bosses. This build easily solo clears every proving ground, circle of slaughter, any groups of enemies you run into, any smaller bosses. When I say smaller bosses, I mean like the Trance, Gigamine, Genevieve, Aurelia, bosses like them. We have no problems against them. That's why the action skills with the Doppelbanger, resetting your action skills to keep up your kill skills when there's no mobs around, really works out well, and you can just spam them with grenades, no problem. They take damage like any other enemy. Now on to the cons. The main problems with this build are the vault monsters. Rampager, Grave Ward, Tyreen. Grave Ward in the list of our cons. These bosses become harder to kill because grenades are less effective against them. And I know Grave Ward is the one that sticks out in this big con because he is one of the #1 farming targets in the game. The good thing is, the Lyuda is very effective against Grave Ward. I include one in this build because of that, and how good the gun is in general. But sometimes issues can arise if Mayhem modifiers work against you, lowering sniper damage, lowering fire damage, stuff like that. I'll just save reload if I'm just farming, and I get modifiers like that. An average Grave Ward kill for me, if there's no modifiers working for or against me, probably takes between 1.5 minutes and 2 minutes. The Cutsman can also shred Grave Ward when he's in his down position. The Cutsman is also very good against Tyreen, to be honest. If you like the build, leave a like. If you don't like the build, leave a like. If you want to see what other builds I can come up with, leave a comment. Any questions, leave a comment. I'll reply to every comment. I'll definitely make some more Borderlands content if this gets good responses. I really love Zane, and I'm happy to find ways to play him that I haven't seen anyone else doing. Anyways, that's one in-depth guide to Infinite Grenade Zane.